Welcome back to episode 4 of the Second Look Hockey Podcast, and also a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. It feels like we haven't seen each other for a while, and that's probably because I think now it's been close to 2 weeks since we've last talked, at least in this format. As always, I'm joined with my co-host. I'm David Leo. As always, I'm joined with my co-host, Cristian Chiniti. Cristian, how was your holidays?
Pretty good, man. Yeah, I can't complain. Definitely just a good break. Like I'm not about to say I did anything crazy, adventurous, whatever. I'm not. I think you guys have learned I'm not really that type. But man, it was good to just relax. Obviously, get together with family a tons, with friends as well. And so yeah, I just feel rested, man. I feel ready to go for 2025 after that holiday break. How about you?
Yeah, no, 100%. It was a good little break. I still had to like go into work um a few times like throughout
Yeah.
the break, but like that was completely fine by me. I know like you and even like producer Mando, you guys had a little bit of time off if I'm not mistaken with where you guys
Solid
are at right
solid
now.
week. Yeah.
Nice week off. Yeah, I mean, listen, it even when I was there, I was about to say that it didn't feel like I was doing too much work, but there was still like stuff going on uh every time that I was in. Um, but yeah, at the end of the day, feeling a little bit refreshed and ready to kind of get back into it's the routine that I kind of miss. I like my
So
routines, you know what I mean? So getting back into the routine, especially starting tomorrow, which would be January 6th. Sorry. Yeah, at the time of recording,
yeah.
you'll probably be seeing it on January 6th, this episode on January 6th. So, getting back into that routine, it's gonna be great. On that note, I think we could just hop right in, and we're gonna start with we're not gonna start in the NHL. We're gonna start with the World Juniors. Everybody on this network, we are all Canadian fans, and we were all. I don't know. I was heart. I was. I don't know if I was heartbroken. I expected the outcome by the quarterfinals. So I have two things. I started this tournament thinking again that Canada got a super team. And with the talent on paper that they brought to the tournament, they should have had a team that at least made it to the semifinals. They didn't. They lost 4-3 to the Czechs in the quarterfinals. The second time in a row now that Canada lost to the Czechs in the quarterfinals, which is crazy because Canada's used to getting knocked out by the likes of, or at least playing and winning, and even getting knocked out by the likes of like the States, and when they were in the tournament, the Russians and even like the Swedes. But like the Czechs have come on a lot recently, and they've kind of been a thorn in Canada's side over the last couple of years. Cristian, where do you want to start with that? That's an embarrassment. It's been an embarrassing 2 years for Hockey
Yeah.
Canada at the World Juniors, at least aside from everything else going on with Hockey Canada. In the World Juniors specifically, on ice, it's been a complete embarrassment. Where do you want to start?
Before we like get the ball rolling here, just be honest with me. Like, what was like your heat level coming right off that loss? Like, it's
Uh,
somewhat like
the
fortunate that we're doing this like a couple days later. That we're definitely
mhm.
like way more calm. But where were you at right when that loss happened? How
my
how
heat
heated up were
level,
you?
my heat level at quarterfinal loss was at a 6 because I expected
Okay,
the loss.
true,
My heat
true. Like you
level
said, yeah,
after the Latvia game was at a 12
yeah.
because that was the start of the downfall. That was
That was
when
the
the
unraveling. Yeah,
the chink in the armor was right there. And they didn't get a chink out of their armor. Like chinks are fine. Like you know what I mean? A couple of
yeah.
like, you could patch that up, dude. They got a hole the size of a cannonball through their armor after that Latvia game. That's where my anger level was because I was in at work both of those games. So the Latvia loss I was in and the Czechia game I was in. And that Czechia game, there was so much hockey going on that night. That was
Leaf
probably
game.
Yeah, that was like first and foremost. That was like the one that everybody kind of had on. But I said to a few people around me, I was like, they're not coming out of this game with a win. I fully pessimistic Leaf fan Dave here. I fully expected that loss before the game even started. Um,
I'll
so
circle back then because like
yeah,
you said off
go.
the top, you're like you looked at this roster and you're like, okay, super team. I definitely didn't look at it and say super team because of what we'll get into in a second. But like you said, good enough to not be knocked out of the quarterfinals is 100% right, and that's basically the standard for Canada. It should be going into every tournament. We shouldn't be thinking quarterfinals and we'll see what happens. That's below the standard. But would it have been a super team if they had all the guys that everyone has been talking about even before the tournament started? Like we're talking back when the original selections were made, even I think for like the pre-invite roster, right?
Hmm.
So these were like the biggest names that were not on this Canadian World Junior roster. Zane Perrick, defenseman drafted by Calgary last year. Carter Yakimchuk, Senators draft pick. Beckett Seneca, last year draft pick as well, third overall by the Anaheim Ducks. Michael Misa, Andrew Crystal is a Caps prospect. Those are probably the biggest names that come to mind that were not on this roster. That were genuine surprises for everyone. Like these weren't guys on the fringes. It felt like these would have been dudes who were playing, if not the top six, the top nine, most of them, right? And instead, they opted for guys like a Cole Baudouin who started on the fourth line, got a little bit of action on that first line, but just wasn't really a natural fit on the roster if you're just looking at selecting the best guys in Canada. So I think that's where everyone's first excuse starts is roster selection. And then from there, it's from management down to coaching. So I don't think I've talked to a single person. I don't think I'll be talking to a single person in the next year who is happy with Dave Cameron's tactics or lack thereof as the Canadian coach here. First and foremost, not practicing often and saying that they're exhausted, as if every other team in the tournament doesn't have the exact same schedule. So
That's so
I don't know
it's
what's up
so
with that.
ridiculous. It's so
Yeah,
ridiculous for a team that looked like they were just one click off. Like every single person on that team was one click off of each other. It would have been that does that not seem like the perfect time to get people all on the same wavelength? Getting a little, even dude, an hour and a half. That's
You
all you
you can
need.
even pull the we're not practicing card once. Like I don't think anyone would have had a problem with pulling that
And
out after one of the losses.
here's the thing.
But to do
Here's
it
the
consistently,
Yeah. Here's the thing.
you can't.
They didn't even have to practice after every, like, you know what I mean? Like, you could pull it once, or you could just practice once. One practice. But you had
Yeah,
zero. You didn't
yeah.
even skate the morning of the Czechia loss. You canceled your morning skate. That should be a time when you're kind of coming together. That Czechia game, the whole world is going against you. You should be doing everything up to standard and going above. Your morning skate has to be like the best morning skate you've ever had in your life up until that point. You know, this is your for a lot of these guys, for the players on the ice, that's their audition heading into the NHL. What type of precedent does that set for them going forward? Like,
It's also just the type of tournament where it's a sprint, it's not a marathon, right?
yeah,
The World Junior Championship isn't an 82 game season. It's a 10-day tournament where you're just supposed to give it your all for that little amount of time, right? So I understand in the NHL, we have tons of time. It's like, okay, practice is canceled. Boys are coming off a tough loss, long road trip, or whatever. That's not what this is. That's not what this is. Two things, just in
mhm.
terms of figuring out where to put the blame on this. Um, when I watch this roster play, especially in comparison to, I'd say, like just recent Canadian World Junior teams who didn't
the
perform at the
okay,
level that we expect. Like, yeah, some of the teams that have also haven't been able to hit the standard. It
even
feels
like
like
last
most of
year.
the time, yeah, like last year, obviously, too. But I feel like those teams, I felt like the common thread was more so not there wasn't a selfishness. It was almost being too unselfish. It was making too many extra passes, looking for the perfect shot. Felt like a much more common problem for Canadian World Junior teams opposed to this year. outside of being undisciplined and just taking selfish penalties, there was a decent bit of like selfish play on the ice, which I don't think is something we've come to expect of a World Junior Canadian team, even when they're not doing their greatest. So I think first and foremost was like the Easton Cowan looking off. I think it was Oliver Bonk, right, in the Czech game there, where it's just like, it's a tough look. I don't think that's something we've become accustomed to from seeing the Canadian team. So there's that philosophy for me where that was a little bit surprising to see. And then this is just like a general, I guess, roster construction question for you for Canadian teams maybe going forward. They went for the character picks, trying to find and identify the guys with, I don't know, like the clutch gene or whatever you want to call it, the it factor that makes Canada special is what they look for in terms of selecting this roster, looking off some of the pure skill guys like we just mentioned before. Can you identify that this early in a hockey player's development, like as a management staff? Is that something that's already developed that early? Because I think back to like the John Tavares and Jordan Eberle roster of 2009, right?
2009, 2010. Yeah.
Jordan Eberle at that point in time has to be viewed as just a pure skill forward, right? Like, I don't think there would have been anything at that time to identify the clutch gene, or does he dig into the corners, whatever. That's not Jordan Eberle's reputation. He built that reputation at the World Juniors through his opportunity. He earned that opportunity by being one of the best Canadian prospects on his pure skill. And the World Juniors, like you said, was his audition, and we got to find out if he had that gene. Same thing with John Tavares. He did. He did. My point is, 100%. You can't remove the opportunity from some of the best prospects in Canada, from a Beckett Seneca who gets drafted 3rd overall, Carter Yakimchuk, St. Perry. You have to give these guys the opportunity to sink or swim, and then we see it in the World Juniors. And I feel like this management team removed that opportunity, where they said they overthunk it. They treated it as if they were selecting this Four Nations tournament roster, which I think is a little bit different because these are all guys, for the most part, in their mid-20s to even all the way up to mid-30s, where they have established reputations at the highest level of the sport as far as clutch gene and coming up at the right moments. I don't think that's identifiable at the World Juniors, and I think Canada going forward needs to stick with the guys who are just simply the best Canadian prospects and go from there. The World Juniors is the breeding ground to see if they have those genes, and if they don't, so be it. That's where we should find out. I don't know if you feel any different or have anything to add on that aspect.
You nailed it. You nailed it on the head. And like, dude, the one thing that this team desperately needed was goal scoring. Did they get a single goal 5-on-5 all tournament? Because I don't think they did. Their 3 goals against their 3 goals against the Czech, I believe, all came from different. They scored a shorty, they scored a power play goal, and they might have scored one 4-on-4. I don't think they scored a single goal at 5-on-5 this tournament. They needed goals.
The fact that we even have to think about it, like even if they scored 1 or 2, that's a problem.
It's bad,
right? Like no matter if they didn't or did, that shouldn't be in question.
And it's not like their power play was any better, especially after Matthew Schaefer went down with injury. They had Oliver Bonk come in, and I mean, he looked like he did a lot more sinking than swimming, in my personal opinion. A lot of the guys
Mando hitting us with 2 5-on-5 goals in 4 games. Like that's
not good. That's bad.
Yes.
And they had one of the most lackluster power plays like in the tournament as well. Yeah. So
when you're putting Oliver Bonk in for Matthew Schaefer after his injury, and he's coming to the podium and saying, I'm not like used to playing this. Like I don't usually have PP1, and he's in the bumper spot too, which I mean, he scored when they put him in that position. Yeah. So a credit there, but this isn't like a salary cap roster where you're trying to make the pieces fit. Like you had free reign. Like you shouldn't be able to select a roster from the best of the best available under 20 guys and then be scratching your head when one defenseman goes down. Who do we put at PP1? That's ridiculous.
No, it's frankly just, it's inexcusable. They had so many guys who filled, like you said, like the character type players, the 200-foot guys. They had 6 of them between like Matthew Cataford and like Paul Baudouin and like Luca Pinelli. I know a lot of people liked him.
Had
I
a
thought he
flash.
was. I honestly I thought he was just on the team because he's Dave Cameron's guy. That screamed nepotism right from the start for me, and he didn't do much to, in my opinion, to change that narrative against him. And a lot of people thought he had. I no. I sorry no. Those are three guys right there where Luke, like we said, Michael Misa, Beckett Seneca, like you need those goal scorers to come in
They
and on
just
the
have the
back end,
pedigree.
yeah.
It
Ah,
felt like a team that was lacking pedigree, where as much as it's been awesome to see Easton Cowan go on his 56 game point streak in the juniors, and I mean he's still tied for the team lead in points with 3, which is
mhm,
that's a damning stat right there. But
yeah.
I think Easton Cowan, instead of being a focal point in the top 6, looks so much better if he's in a tandem with one of these guys that was left off the roster, like a Beckett Seneca, right?
So
Like I
that's
think we just look at it so much differently.
one thing I wanted to bring up is like Easton Cowan was getting absolutely ripped apart online and uh on the broadcast as well. Like what this tournament couldn't have done much to help confidence or his personal stock. What does this mean for him like going forward?
So honestly, I don't think confidence is something that Easton Cowan's ever going to lack. I feel like what we've heard from this guy just in when he's had opportunities to speak is this isn't a guy lacking confidence, and it goes to a little bit of the selfish play that we saw. He does have the resolve to think he can get it done, and maybe it's actually finding the balance the other way, finding out or trying to get him to trust his other options more, right? So my personal stock that I'm putting into Easton Cowan has to be a little bit down after this tournament. That's just natural. But on the grand scope of things, I don't know if I don't know if we saw anything out of what he can bring to the table that we didn't expect before this tournament. I think we're going to be kidding ourselves if we think that he can be a true franchise cornerstone. That's not what he is. I'm going to sneeze here for a second.
Yeah, no, I
Never
completely
mind. It's
agree.
gone. Yeah.
You
So
just
he's
sucked it
like
right back in.
I've
That's
never done it that fast. That was crazy. But yeah, no, we have to just recalibrate that. If anyone had the expectation that he could come in and be on the level of like a Nylander Marner, that's not the case. And I don't know how many of us were thinking that. But when you look at the guy that's putting up a 56 game point streak, a guy who was the MVP of the entire CHL last year, and you have to think that at least some points in time.
and
But
and also Memorial Cup MVP as well.
yes, yeah, and he's going to be looking
Like,
to get that this year, right? So
mhm.
the accolades are there. Is he an untouchable in the prospect system? I still think he's close, but like yeah, like the reviews are going to be down as a Leaf follower on Easton Cowan after this tournament, and he's going to have to do a lot to swing us back in the other direction. He's still a really good prospect. There's still a lot of promise there. Yeah, we need to have our trust earned back from Easton Cowan a little bit, a little bit. I don't know. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, no, it wasn't a great showing. He was on the team last year as well when they crashed out as well. He Yeah, no, I think you nailed it on the head again. I am a little bit sour on him, especially after like just seeing the the shot that he took when he could have passed it across for the goal. It does start to seep in a little bit, but at the end of the day, the kid is under the age of 20 years old. He still has time. We're gonna let him grow. We're not gonna, at least here on this podcast, we're not gonna come after a literal child. So, um, was there any positives on this team? Like, was there one player that you thought had a pretty good tournament? Because I'll be honest, I'm struggling here to find one.
It's so to go like to give it like the full tournament stamp of approval is hard. Like there probably isn't a guy who you can say just oh start to finish this guy was just great. But is there guys that you were really impressed with the flashes of? I like for me there is there is a couple. You mentioned one of them already, Matthew Schaefer, who looked great until his
Yeah.
collarbone didn't, right? I was honestly, I was basically convinced they had this guy at forward in the first game with how many chances he had. Like, it was incredible. And he has obviously the assist on the first goal of the tournament to Gavin McKenna, but that guy's vision is great. They had him in one of the intermission interviews. I was just impressed by the way he carries himself. This is a guy who's in contention for first overall of the upcoming NHL draft. I'm impressed by him on and off the ice. Matthew Schaefer is going to be a real good one. Gavin McKenna, he's Gavin McKenna. Like, we saw some of those flashes. We could have seen more maybe if he had more ice time, but so be it. Dave Cameron, hopefully we'll see it next year, and it won't be limited by Mr. Cameron.
I thought the best flashes of Gavin McKenna came in that third. Like, it wasn't even the goal that he scored in the first period of the first game of the tournament.
Yeah.
It was actually in the last period that they got eliminated. He gets more ice time. I believe he gets flanked with Callum Ritchie and Easton Cowan in that third period, and they look dominant. They look great. Now, say what you want about the Czechs, but they held them at bay. But man, if you gave them those types of minutes all through the tournament,
give them some runway.
Yeah, give them a little bit of leeway. And I think who could say what they would have done? Like,
I think my favorite Gavin McKenna flash, I think it was in the game against Germany, where he had an opportunity all alone in front, and he went for the between the legs move, but it wasn't your typical between the legs, because he still was gliding as he attempted it, and he would have been trying to go far side with it, which was a crazy move. Didn't score with it, but I was just like, oh my God, that's something else. So Gavin McKenna is Gavin McKenna. I don't think that surprises us. Carter George, though, in net, I think as a country, we need every little bit of optimism we can have as far as goaltending goes. It's got, Carter George, especially when, I don't know how many times they brought it up on the broadcast, and not like saying it's a bad thing, but the amount of times we're like, hey, this guy's record in like junior hockey sucks, his win-loss record, but my God, plays for Owen Sound, who sucks. Save percentage looks a lot better, and you can see on a World Junior team how he actually performs. That guy was, I thought he was as calm as he could be throughout the entire tournament. Obviously, not giving up a goal until really later on. I think it was in the U.S. game was the first goal that he let up, right? Yeah. So you can't be anything but impressed with him. Hopefully that bodes well for the country's goaltending future at large. And Tanner Molendyke is the last one I have here, who's a Preds prospect. That guy's skating is just a thing of beauty to watch. Mike Johnson especially was doing like just the oohs and ahs all tournament at his skating, and I was right there with him, because that guy skates like the wind. That's all I got. You got any other shout outs?
Yeah, I just want to shout out to the three Brampton Steelheads prospects on that team. The first one, Jack Ivankovic. Next year, watch out for him. Is Carter George eligible to come back? I believe so, right?
He's drafted, so he actually might not. He's a Kings prospect. So I don't know.
Jack will be the starter next year. He's an underager right now, had one appearance against Latvia, and even in the loss, still looked pretty damn good. He's one of the best goaltenders right now in the O. The other two players I want to shout out, Dave Cameron for not using them properly. Porter Martone, draft eligible this year, gets Canada back into the game with a power play goal, even though he played legitimately 15 minutes across the entire tourney. Awesome. Great job, Dave. And also Carson Rakoff, who he is on, like, Porter Martone and Carson Rakoff are two of the most dynamic players in the O. They play on the same power play. They play on the same line. They're two of the top point getters in the O, and you don't play them at all together. And those are the two players that you rotate in and out. Dave Cameron, go get your dunce cap, pal. Go get a U.S. citizenship, pal. You're not coming back to Canada. You're not. Just get out of here. Get out of town. That's it. I'm so upset for the Brampton Steelheads guys. Not Brampton. Yeah, the Brampton Steelheads guys. I keep mixing up where they play now. We're in Mississauga. They're in Brampton now. Doesn't matter. Steelheads till I die. Love them. All three of them, I think, are like awesome players. I can't wait to see Jack next year at the tournament, because I think he's going to turn heads personally.
Producer Mando confirming Carter George is 18, so he will be eligible. unless he's up in
Yeah.
the NHL or something. Could be seeing more Carter George next year, which is it's a good thing, I think. My last thought here on Canada, and then we can move on. We obviously had some of the executives of Hockey Canada speak. This was on Friday afternoon. I cannot believe when I read this quote. I was just scratching my head. This is from Scott Salmond. He's one of the three men that was in charge of the 2025 World Junior selection team. This is what he had to say. The buck stops with me. The program of excellence is my responsibility. And so, like other Canadians, I'm incredibly disappointed. I'm apologetic. It's not acceptable. He says this. It's not unacceptable, but we can't accept it. What the hell does that mean?
What
It's
does
not
that mean?
unacceptable, but we can't accept it. I'm pretty sure the definition of unacceptable is that it can't be accepted. What the hell, Scott? What the hell? I'm sorry I have to grill him for that one. The rest was decent PR speak, if you want to call it that. Like he said all the right things, but it was PR speak. It was PR speak.
Yeah.
Like we've seen it. Like as Leaf fans, how many times have we just seen like our players?
Yeah, it's just like get
into the dressing room and say, yeah, it's just like how many times can you say the right thing and not do the right thing after? So let's see it. Let's see it, Scott Salmond and the rest of the staff there. Other World Junior thoughts? Who do you got taking this in the final here? We've got the U.S. and Finland.
I'll be honest. I thought my pick was honestly going to be the Swedes. I thought the Swedes were going to run away with it. But I mean, U.S. and we're also discrediting. Like Czechia could very well upset the States today.
I would love me some Miro Halinka golden goal action.
Yeah,
give me it. Give me that.
But no, it's I probably got my money on the States, honestly. The Finns look pretty good too, but
yeah. No, the Finns with the upset over Sweden, obviously. But yeah, like I was very impressed by Sweden's two just dynamic defenders, Tom Willander, Canucks prospect, and Axel Sandin Pellikka, who's a Red Wings pick. He had like 4 goals in the first 2 games. Those guys are dynamite. And I'll give a shout out to our good buddy, mine and Dave's good buddy, Brian, who was pestering us. He's like, how about those Caps prospects throughout the entire tournament? And I mean, he's right. Like, captain of the U.S. team, Ryan Leonard, looks really damn good. Like, it's tough not to be sucked in by the way that guy plays. Like, he's really enjoyable to watch. Cole Hudson, who, if you're a Canada fan, you're probably not enjoying what he did very much. But, I mean, you gotta respect the talent there. And Eriks Matejko on Latvia, another Caps prospect there. So listen, they got some of the stars of the tournament. And I just want to throw a bone there to Brian, who, for whatever reason, born and raised in Toronto, is a Washington Capitals fan and cheers for U.S. hockey in international tournaments. So
he's not just a Washington, he's a big Caps fan and also supports their other sports teams. Wizards fan,
it's so weird.
Nationals fan, Mystics fan.
Like this guy would also wear, like, I remember vividly remember in high school, like we had like a jersey day. And so he didn't wear a US jersey to school because that would have been, I don't know, we might have had to kick him out of the country. But he came in like a Nicholas Backstrom Sweden jersey before he'd ever wear a Canada jersey. Now I get like obviously Backstrom Capitals, whatever, but still, like, sorry, Brian, sorry to air out laundry here, but I think people might enjoy that and they'd be scratching their heads as well. I think. Oh, one last thing on US, last World Junior foul for me. Slightest bit of jersey talk here. I hate like the Nike huge freaking pentagon thing on every Nike jersey. And I specifically hated on the US one because they wear this beautiful jersey. And to me, it's ruined by this gigantic red collar all around. Like it is way too thick and it goes all around. Like it's not just a red stripe or just white trim at the top. It is humongous and it looks like they're wearing a baby bib. Like it's such a nice uniform and they ruin it. Like maybe nobody gives a crap, but that was the first thought I had when I started watching this tournament was what the hell did they do to the US jerseys? So I don't know, maybe if we have any other US fans who watch other than Brian, they can let us know what they think. But yeah, I thought that was really ugly.
Shout out to Chanit's jersey talk coming in once again. I'll do you one better, pal. I like I don't even know what to call this, but I'm gonna do goal song talk here. Dude,
Okay.
The US, do you know their what their goal song is?
You know what? I don't think I do.
Okay, so their goal song is Freebird by Leonard Skinner,
Okay.
but it's
Yeah, yeah.
just that one part with the guitar solo. It's like and dude,
Yeah.
it gets the place rocking. If that goal song comes back next year in Minneapolis and St. Paul, the US team is going to be electric. And
Something
also
tells me if
can
they win gold that we'll be hearing that again.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to be hearing it. I think we're going to be hearing it quite a bit. And also, so Canada's was
Life is
Life is
life.
Life. Yeah, great song. Absolutely tainted now because of this tournament. That's something that if
And the
you
fact
go to
that
Leaf games,
the Czechs sang it after they
yeah,
beat
that
us,
tough
right?
one.
Like
Are
you're
they
right though
not?
about yeah, it's always at the Leaf game.
I think the people that made it might be Czech. Opus, they might be Czech. We'll
You're asking
fact
the
check
wrong
that
guy.
one. We'll
Yeah.
fact check that one. They might be Czech. How funny
Yeah.
would that be? That's it.
Do they take it off the playlist now at Leaf games after this for the rest of the season, or what do they do here?
I went to the game on New Year's Eve,
That's right.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and it was there. They had it,
Okay.
and I
Okay.
was singing
Well, okay,
along. It's a
but
good song,
you have to have
but
it
it's
during the
tainted.
tournament. Yeah, you have to have it during the tournament. Now yeah, I don't know. I don't
It's
know.
tainted. It's a tainted song now. I don't
Oh
know if
man.
many Canadians are going to be playing that song in the near future. Um, so right now we're just gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back. And we are back. Producer Mando hitting us with a great bit of information during our break. Opus, the band that sang "Life Is Life" that Canada used during the World Juniors as their goal song from Austria. So I don't know how close I was with my Czech guess. I have no idea where the Czech Republic or Czechia is in relation to Austria. But they're in Europe. I'm going to give myself a half point for even suggesting like that they're from there. So I don't know.
I
Crazy.
think that's very fair. I think that's fair.
On that note, we are just gonna hop right into Leaf Talk today, guys. We have a lot to get into. How do you want to do this, Christian? Do you want to start from the back and then work our way to the present almost? Like go work, you know?
I say I don't know how much we have to relitigate all the games that we didn't get to in
Yeah,
2024, but
I think that's fair.
give me any impressions you had from the game that you obviously got to see. I think we start from that game and we can cover a little bit from there. So
For
I'm
sure.
curious what you have just from watching the Leafs and also just like the arena. The first game you attended this year, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Have you
So
been
tell
to
me
a
if you have
game
like
this year?
any. Yeah, I went to
Okay.
it was the Tampa game early in the year where we absolutely crushed them. That
Okay.
was on Amazon Prime. It was a Monday game. One of the better games I've been to regular season wise. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe that could be the factor there because the Leafs kind of it felt a little bit I was feeling a little bit like library-esque at points during the game, and I think that just came down to the fact that I think in the second period the Leafs they were getting hemmed in the first Islanders game. They didn't look great
Yeah.
all game.
No.
Um in arena though, I have to say I went to a few games last year. It's relatively similar, but I think all the improvements that they've made over the last few years have been welcome. I think everything in there was has been pretty good. They obviously have their staples. They do the hockey song still midway. It's always second intermission. Sorry, second period. First TV timeout. It's always then. Um,
Yeah.
but
I asked because okay, go on. You have something else
Sorry.
from
Yeah,
it?
no,
Yeah.
that was it. Like, I don't know. Did you feel something? I'm thinking because maybe you went to the game, and I remember
Yeah.
that. Like, everybody remembers that game in particular. The fans in that
Yeah.
game, and was that not an Amazon Prime game as well?
That was actually I think it was
The
it
first
was
one
either
or
the
the
first or
second?
second. I think the first one was the Winnipeg game. I think
Okay.
this was the second one. But anyways, I asked because there is two things that I've noticed. Not that one you don't have to notice by going to the game,
Mhm.
and that's just the way that they sputter on the goal horn now, and people have talked about that. I
Mm.
like it. It adds a little something something. I like that.
Little sauce
I
there.
like that.
Yeah.
I like that. So there's that, and then the other thing is I don't know. I did actually find this year that it feels like there's a bit more of a different music mix. I don't know
Mhm.
if maybe because you went to an afternoon game, I wonder if they maybe dabble with it a bit for like the more of like the kid friendly. Not that they play like not that they have like uncensored
Childish
songs on
songs.
like night
Yeah,
games, but
yeah.
it just
Okay, I see
we've
what you're
talked
saying.
about this before. Like they always go with like the family friendly. We get on the leaks for
There,
being too safe with their
yeah.
options. I actually felt the game I went to was I just felt more into it. It just felt more serious. It didn't just feel there was less of just the family friendly music, just the safe choices. So that
I
was all.
I will say a lot more I feel more family friendly music. In particular, I just
Yeah,
remember. So I was there with my brother, with my little brother,
yeah,
and they were playing like they played Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter and then Hot to Go
yeah,
by Chappell Roan, like back to back.
yeah,
And
yeah.
the children in the crowd, especially the young girls, were going crazy. They were doing the HOTTOG. I'm not even gonna attempt to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
dance there because that's like above my level. I'm
yeah.
not doing that. But they were it was getting those fans in particular into it. Espresso, same thing. I felt that. But the one thing I want to say is I think Doop Doop is catching on in the Scotiabank Arena. I got to hear it twice this
Oh
year,
yeah,
and both times my whole section were going
love
da,
it,
da, 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 da,
love
da,
it.
da, da. Hey, hey, hey! Dude, I
I
love that. It's so
You actually just
fun.
reminded me of something that this is Dupe Dupe related. I
Darts.
always said like I love yeah. My boy, how about the one and only Luke Littler? This is I'm sorry if you came here
Yeah.
for the greatest hockey talk of all time, but I've got to mention this because it's still pretty sick. I used to watch darts like it used to be on like 3 p.m. on Sportsnet. So like we'd come home from high school and I just like throw on the TV, get like Homer started or whatever. And like darts was like a staple at like 3 p.m. I
Mhm.
don't even think that was live, but I would watch that.
No, it definitely wasn't.
Yeah, 100%. So, anyways, Luke Littler, 17-year-old who like made tons of waves last year for I think he went to the finals as a 16-year-old last year. Anyways, he became the
Yes.
youngest world dart champion um at 17 and he beat the record by 7 years. And he
Crazy.
beat he beat Michael Van Gerwen, who is kind of like the Crosby of darts.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so like he is if he's like the McDavid, he beat Crosby, which is pretty
So
sick.
funny.
It's pretty sick.
Another thing I want to bring up, dude, Stephen Bunting. I don't know if you saw this, but it's like let's go Bunting mental. That was the theme of the tournament, especially in the semifinals. So he takes on Luke Littler, and all of them, they all have walkouts. It's genuinely one of the funniest sports because you have somebody like Luke
Yeah,
Littler legally cannot drink in in the UK, winning a
yeah,
darts tournament. If like that's a pub game and he's winning the
yeah,
tournament, then you have Stephen Bunting, who by all means does not look like a professional athlete. He looks more akin to Shrek than
yeah,
anybody I've ever seen. And God bless him. What an absolute beauty that guy is. He walks in. His walk-in song is Titanium by Sia. So by the time he gets up on stage, the whole crowd's going, bulletproof, nothing to lose. And he's up there, he's got his ears
yeah,
going out like this.
yeah.
Dude, I saw that walkout for the semifinals, and I was like, I need to go to the Ali Pali at some point in my life, the Alexandra Palace in North London, where
Oh yeah,
the PDC championships are held, because that looks like absolutely
yeah.
that's electric. Producer Mando
He
agreeing with me,
agrees.
electric
Hard
walkout.
agree.
But Duke Duke,
Oh
that's where we
man,
got. I had no idea
that's where it
before
was from.
last year.
Yeah,
That's where we got it from. And because
yeah.
you brought it up, you're like, they play that at the darts, and
It's
you
always
hear
like
the
when they go to commercial and they do like a
yeah,
pan of the crowd, and it's just these long tables and
yeah.
everyone just
It's the
drinking
beer house
their mind.
tables, yeah,
It's incredible. Yeah, it's
yeah.
incredible.
And
It's
you hear
oh
the announcer
man.
going, whoa. And you got
Honestly, dude, that was pretty good, man.
dude.
Yeah, yeah.
I love the dart scene. I'm got into it now. Like recently. My Twitter feed is normally filled with like UK related things because
Yeah. Okay.
I'm
Fair.
so in the EPL like lexicon. Like that's my
True.
algorithm. So
You like your
obviously
UK
it
rap,
goes.
so
I do like my UK
it's
rap.
double. Yeah.
It's it literally what goes hand in hand. It's like peanut butter and
Yeah.
jelly. Okay, let's go back on track here though.
Okay. Okay.
The Leafs. That game was very interesting. I saw David Kempf go live and then Steven
First line
Lorentz,
center, David Camp. Oh my
first line
God.
center, and then Steven Lorentz turned into
Oh,
literally Connor McDavid. He
yeah.
walked Scott Mayfield like in front of us too. It was one of those goals where I'm there with my brother and we're 10 years apart. But goals like that get us on our feet.
100%.
I've literally got my right hand and I'm shaking my brother like this when
Yeah.
Steve Lorentz just walks Scott Mayfield. Like goes roof job on Ilya Sorokin of all people.
I texted you immediately, and for me, it was like that was like very John Tavares-esque. Like that was like if
Yeah.
you ever look at
Oh
like
yeah.
John Tavares' highlight pack, especially of like when he was with the Islanders, one of his go-to moves would be like the forehand backhand deke on the defender, but he'd do it like 2 or 3 times or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like it's not like that's not what Lorenz did, but it just if I just like caught a quick glance at the TV and saw that goal, I would have been convinced it was JT and not Steve Lorenz. Yeah, shout out to Lorenz, man.
I could vaguely remember a JT goal against the Leafs where he walked somebody.
Boom, boom.
Who knows
Yeah.
who it could have been? It would have been 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So shout out to
you. So you saw. I think you saw the game that was less sleepy between the two because, like, just like the Islanders games in general, like that's just a sleepy team to watch.
They are. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that second game, it just felt like didn't get going for a while there.
Well, that was also Team Canada was playing that day as well. So there wasn't as many eyes even like going like some of the viewership from that game wasn't even like fully focused. I wasn't even fully focused on that game, and I was like covering it at work. Like I was like doing stuff for that game.
Me and producer Mando we were working on that Leaf game, but it was like every commercial break I tried to check in. Yeah.
No, 100%. We had it was a home and home against the Isles. They were both pretty sleepy games. Did you have any big takeaways from those two games or like something that you noticed against them?
Nothing specifically from those two games, but I think the trend in terms of just the coverage and what was brought up many times on the broadcast and coming out of them was the lack of blue line scoring, right? That was the story of December, no goals throughout the entire month. I think it was on 99 shots.
I think
they got over? Okay. All right.
I think it was over.
So it was like the 5th longest drought in franchise history, and that obviously ended last night in the Bruins game with Jake McCabe scoring the first goal for the Leafs. They get off the schneid there. I guess we can move on to that game. And I mean, as much as it's about McCabe getting off the schneid, the story is obviously a guy named Matthew. Oh, you got some? Okay.
There was one thing I do want to say. Actually, I had that note. I had a note from that New Year's Eve game because that was that start of the talk around they needed the blue line to step up. And I noticed it in particular from that day. It was probably Tanev. Myers had a couple. I noticed it more that they were even Riley had a very good chance. In particular that game as well, where he jumps up on the rush. It honestly could have been both games against the Isles where he's jumping up.
I was going to say, I think the second game as well, like we kept an eye on that, and they definitely were.
As soon as those talks, they just started to like. There was more grumblings, and it was getting louder and louder. There was definitely talk amongst the whole decor that they needed to step up, and good for Jake McCabe getting it.
I think it showed in his celebration though. Like it's not like he didn't celebrate that goal as just another goal that Jake McCabe scored. Like he celebrated that like monkey off the entire blue line's back, right?
Yeah.
Like
I hope that's not the only D goal we get for the whole month of January. I'd like to see more of that going forward. If it's like Jake, if it's like OEL, sneaky great shot. I don't even know if it's sneaky, but he's got a great shot. He could use it. You know who could bomb a puck? Philippe Myers. The guy, his clappers are touching 95 every single time. It's ridiculous. It's probably even
I,
higher.
I need to see some finish on them for me to be fully bought on Philip Myers, who got a 2-year extension, right, for 850. So I
Yes.
mean,
Yeah.
like you really can't you can't complain about that. But
Hmm.
I need to. I'm still not fully bought in Philippe Myers, and I think it's because I'm just still rubbed a little wrong by the first preseason game, which this all sounds like it makes no sense. But the first preseason game was against Montreal, and he just had an awful. He just defended
Showing.
awfully on a goal. I remember that, and I
Yeah.
just thought that rubbed me the wrong way. And it was I should not be holding a guy
I don't know if that was just
hostage
because
for that, but
I
yeah.
vaguely remember that whole game. He was kind of getting turnstile
Yeah, I
kind of
just
game.
really wasn't
Wasn't a good
impressed.
showing.
I need to put more of I need to like one of these next couple of games just do like a Philippe Myers lock in and just watch
Yeah.
this guy. But
Well,
yeah,
look at
I
the
mean,
blue
hey, you
line
can't
when keep an eye on the blue line when the puck's got a
yeah.
fire like turns into a fireball because of that guy.
Yeah, I did
Um,
want to bring up like on the blue line stats. So I looked up how many goals the Leafs had scored by their blue lines in the past 3 years. So last year they got 24. The year before that, 27. You go back 3 seasons, 35. So we've been on
okay.
a downtrend here. And I mean, right now I think we're on pace for 16. I think McCabe's was the 8th from our blue line this year. So we're only
Yeah.
on pace for 16 right now. Um, and everyone's talking about like, okay, we need some offense from the blue line. Does that come within, or are they going to look external at the deadline? I don't know how much you can do that. And I'd also say this has not come up in any of the conversation I've heard on this topic yet. Like everyone's like explaining like what they need. They're like, well, you can't get someone like really that good. We don't really have space for that. You just need a guy who's got a little bit of pop and whatever. I'm like, sounds like Timothy Liljegren. And I mean, I don't want, yeah, I'm not saying, oh, they shouldn't have traded Timothy Liljegren because I was right there saying like it's
I'm
about time. But it is just
yeah.
funny though, listening to that. It just sounds like a description of Timothy Liljegren that people want. So
Listen, I'm fine with Timothy Liljegren not being on this team because even in San
Sam.
Jose, he's had his struggles. We know what Timothy Liljegren is and does
Yeah.
for a team. He can provide the offensive spark at times, but in his own end, he looks completely out of his depth. And I don't want to relitigate anything with him, but I'm glad that with how the decor is right now, with the lack of goals, than with him on it providing a bit more of an offensive
Yeah.
spark. But
So
in
so
the
do you
case
think
of
then like is it like Riley I think has 4 goals and then every other defender that's scored has one. Like we don't
one,
have any other I believe that's the case. So it's like what do we expect here? Like I was definitely pushing for OEL to start on PP1 at the beginning of the year. I still think he hasn't got like incredible runway to really see what he can do there. But is he really the solution? Like, does he unlock the power play? Like, where does the offense come from? Is it supposed to be 5-on-5? I don't know. I'm not really
I
sure, and I don't know how much better it can get other than just
yeah.
regression.
So another thing with that too is you have Philippe Myers playing on a line right now with Morgan Riley. Heading into the playoffs, is that what we want to see? Like
No.
probably not. I don't think that like Philippe Myers is an 8. You know what I mean, or a 7 to an
Seven.
8.
I'm fine with this. As I'm even fine with a 6.5. Like
Yeah.
I'm yeah. Like he's just another flavor of if Connor Timmins is like chocolate, then Philippe Myers is chocolate chip. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what they
Um,
are to me.
is a play for a defenseman in the cards again? It seems like every year we kind of come back to we need a right-handed D.
Even when
But
we thought it was solved, eh? Just
yeah,
when we
yeah.
thought, yeah.
Is it in the cards for them this year?
I don't think it should be the highest priority. It just in terms of like giving a name of like what you'd be looking for in an ideal world. This guy's not going to be available, but it's like I think what the Leafs honestly need is like a Shane Gostisbehere, like an absolute just power play
Oh,
specific guy. Shout like that's kind of what they need because they have the defensive coverage solved 5-on-5 penalty kill wise. We're really impressed with what they've brought. And it
100%.
basically feels like we can insulate a guy who doesn't really bring any defense pretty well. Like I think that's what you'd want in an ideal world. I don't know who the Gostisbehere type of guys would be on like teams that would be looking to trade, rental pieces, whatever. I'd have to look into it. But that was just like the
Mhm.
first name that comes to mind. It's like you just want a guy who could really, really, really help your power play, and not do much else. I don't know if that guy's available, and because of that, I don't know if it should be the highest priority. Um, do you have anything on that, or I think maybe we can even move
No,
into some
I
2024 leaf and review stuff.
no, I don't.
You got some? Okay.
I think right now the main priority should be targeting a top six forward, preferably like preferably a center, but somebody who can play in the top six right now. And um if there is a deal to be made for like we could get into it in the coming weeks as trade talks start to ramp up. If there is somebody who fits into this is the person that they needs to fit on Morgan Riley's side, like on the right side of Morgan Riley. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say? Like they need Riley to step up a little bit more, which here's another thing too. I'm not too concerned of because we've had our reservations about Morgan Riley.
We have, yeah.
Once the playoffs start, Morgan Riley turns into
last year he let us down though. Last year he did.
Yeah.
That was the first year where I was a little disappointed.
Fair.
But still, the resume is there, the track record is there. So basically, I think what we're saying is maybe another Lyubushkin type of trade, and Edmondson, like one of those again, right?
There's I'll rip off Sammy McKee from that you guys work with,
dude.
Big Luke Shen guy.
I think everyone like is down for that. Like I've heard that from so many people, and like you already know that I'm right there. I'm absolutely right there.
The money's a lot, though. I have to say, like it's over 2.5. I think that he's making.
I think it's with retention. You can maybe get some double retention, but like you have to get a little bit more creative. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Let's do some year in review then.
Yeah, I've got some stuff. This is really just not going to surprise anyone. It's just who scored the most points as a Leaf in the calendar year of 2024. So this is from Jan 1st to December 31st of 2024. Mitch Marner led the way with 98 points. Willie with 93. Matthews at 86. JT 82. Morgan Riley 49. So talk about a drop off there.
What a drop off.
Not the most. That definitely like isn't going to surprise people, but just thought it was worth mentioning there. But for me, like the one Leaf that I wanted to highlight in 2024 is Bobby McMahon. He played 73 games, had 24 goals, 35 points. And that was while averaging just 13 minutes a night. That's less than David Kampf got. That's less than Domi got. I think in the case of Domi, it's 90 seconds less than him of ice time that he was working with. He had more shots than Domi and Nick Robertson, so 168 compared to Domi's 133 and Nicky Robbie's 106. But he maintained a higher shooting percentage at 14.3%. So I just think the Leaf to highlight in terms of an emergence in 2024 is Bobby McMahon, 24 goals in 73 games. Like that's something there. That's something.
And I think that's completely fair, given how well that third line of Bobby McMahon, Max Domi, and Nick Robertson have been playing over the past, let's say, 2 weeks now.
I think it's pretty even. Like we might be getting like close to a month now.
Yeah, I mean they've really emerged as that ancillary line after the top six, right? Like you know set in stone who's in that top six. But getting the extra bit of oomph from that third line, especially from a guy like Nick Robertson, who a lot of people were down on, and even Max Domi just signing his deal.
All three of those guys are just playing like way above what we saw before the line was put together.
Literally a month ago. Yeah,
I people have been clamoring about Bobby being like kind of the key because you could actually say that Bobby was still doing Bobby McMahon stuff before being put on this line.
He's a spark plug for that line.
He's been a little bit of the fixer just wherever he's played. Like the line does well. There was a Money Puck does like every so often like top producing in terms of like expected stats, top producing like lines in like a certain month or whatever. And I think it was I think this was a over the whole season so far stat, but Bobby McMahon appears on like 3 of the top 30 lines in the NHL in terms of expected offense. It's just Bobby McMahon on 3 different lines is in there. And those are like the only 3 Leaf lines or whatever. So Bobby Boy is He's doing it for charts and for hearts right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I've got some Leaf over unders for you, Dave, and I'll chime one of them too, obviously. But
Okay.
let's start. These are based off of what these players did in the first half. Actually, this might be out of date now because I've got Mitch Marner's over under for points at 50.5 because I think he came into yesterday with 51. So
Yeah.
that's bumped up now, I think, by what, 3 points? That might be 54.5 now, Dave. Are you taking the over
Well,
or
he had a
under?
5 point night.
Was it a 5 point night? Okay, well, that's 55.5, Dave. You taking the over or the under on Mitch's second half here?
55. 55 is a lot, dude. Like that is quite a bit.
Well, as
But
of this recording, we're 40 games in. Game 41 goes tonight. So you've got an extra game to work with here for our betting purposes. But yeah, what do you got?
hmm, I
It's
like
taking
the.
real hard with this one.
I'm a big over
You
guy.
slamming it? Okay.
I love
You're slamming
overs.
the over here.
I
Yeah.
can't in good faith put an under, especially on a Leaf. I wouldn't even do that for
I know
teams
it's
I hate. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
especially with the Leafs,
I
I'm a big over cheerer. You know what I mean?
I'm taking the under with the caveat that after last night's game, he only needs what 45 to get to 100, which
Yeah.
that's the nice round number that we need Mitchie to get to for the first time in his career. So I'm taking the under with 100 in mind. That's how I'll hedge my bet there.
Okay. Fair
William
enough.
Nylander over under 22.5 goals. He's got 23 right now. So does he match that? Does he come under or over?
He's had a bit of a slump. I think this is the longest slump of the
Especially
season he's currently in.
these past couple games right now, I haven't noticed it much.
Yeah. Yeah. That game against the Islanders, the second game against the Islanders, I don't think he registered a shot, or maybe he only had one shot, which
They
for a guy
took
like
it away
him,
from him. They had a
oh,
shot
so he
registered,
had
and then
no
they took it
shots?
away, and he had 2 giveaways. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah, no, 100%. He's had a rough go of it. I'm gonna go under here as from literally gonna to the antithesis of what I
I'm
just
always
said.
slamming the over. Let's go.
Yeah. Again,
Yeah.
for Mitch, I think Mitch can do it with the way that he's playing. I think he can. That's why I'm confident to put the over. With Willie has these types of streaks. He had a streak like this last year when he was chasing
And the year before.
And the year before, right at the end
Yeah.
of the season, he was chasing last year in particular. Was it the all-time? It's like European.
It's yeah, well, it would be European, but I like if you narrow it down, it's specifically I've been
Swedish.
waiting for this guy to break the Swedish record, which is incredible. Like saying the sentence, William Nylander scored more goals in a single season than Matt Sundin as a Leaf is crazy to think about, and he's been on the precipice of that for the past 2 years, and each year he's fallen short and landed directly on 40 goals. I think Sundin's record is 42. So
I think so.
23 to match his first half would get him to 46. So I'm slamming the over here because I really want to see him. I
love to
we
see
grew
it,
up on
but
Matt
you could
Sundin, but I would
you
love
could
to.
also
It's a
slime the under and still be right? If he has
yes. This is what I was saying.
19.
That's what I was saying with Mitch, right? Like it's true, but yeah, I would love to see him break that record because
100%.
as much as I love Matt's, love me some Willie, and this is like it'd just be a crazy sentence to say, right? That Willie Nylander has scored more goals than Matt Sundin as the Leaf in a single season. Is the Boomers aren't going to like that one, but yeah, that's what I've got there. JT over under second half. This might be outdated here. I've got him at 37.5 coming into yesterday.
I think he had like 3 points yesterday too.
I'll put it to you this way then. On the whole season, over under 81.5. Is he a point per game player?
Point per game.
Over the
I'm
season?
gonna slam the over on JT point per game.
Okay.
Because it's not like it's just been a stretch, like a week stretch now, 2 weeks to a month. I think apart from his October, JT has been one of, if at forward at least, one of the most productive, most reliable, just all around best forwards that the Leafs have had all year. Apart from a stretch at the beginning of the season, he's been fantastic, and he's found great chemistry with Max Pacioretty, Mitch Marner, even like when Willie's playing on his line, like JT is one of the most unsung heroes of the team this year, 100%.
I'm agreeing there. I will take the over, but it's like the slightest over. Like
It's a slight over.
I'm
Over's
taking him to
over.
get like 83. Over is the over. I see like an 83-point season where
Fine by
you're right.
me.
Like the motivation has been there like season long. This is probably the most motivated I've seen this guy since like first year as a Leaf, right? Like it just feels like whether it's the amulet or I don't know, things are working for things are working.
It's got to be the amulet.
Okay. This one's pretty good to bring up now, considering last night. Austin Matthews games played in the second half over under 24.5. Do we see Austin sit out more games than he did in the first half?
This is a tough one.
It is, right?
Okay, I'm gonna go over because obviously you see what like I saw. I think it was David Alter who was like, or maybe it was Kevin Papetti who was like, hot take here, guys. Switching David Kampf with Austin Matthews makes the team better.
You don't say.
Wow. You don't say, bud. Obviously done in jest. No, Austin Matthews, he's the most integral piece to the team. If it's under, but it also means he's healthy heading into the playoffs and going forward, I would gladly take that under. But I'm gonna say over. I think he's gonna play. I think he wants to get the games in before the Four Nations tournament because he wants to be at that tournament. And then after, I'm just hoping everything holds up, especially after the tournament and heading down into the dog days and into the playoffs. I'm gonna take the over.
Okay. I'm gonna shorten our little list here. I'm gonna give you one more. This isn't an over/under. This is a take your pick. Mm-hmm. Who scores more in the second half? Bobby McMahon or Matthew Knies, who we forgot to get back to, scored a hat trick yesterday. And one of the, I'm not going to go long with this, but just one of the nicest hat tricks that I've seen a Leaf score in a little while here, just from goal 1, 2, and 3, specifically goal 2 was like just black magic. Who scores more goals? And just to give you reference for what these guys are at right now, I believe Knies is at 14. He's got 14 goals in 38 games. Bobby McMahon has 12 in 32. Who scores more down the second half?
Okay, and this is going to be just based on line deployment, where they play in the lineup and how much they play. I'm going to say Matthew Knies, even though I think it's going to be very close.
Coming into yesterday, Bobby was ahead.
Bobby was ahead. Yeah, no, 100%. And playing third line minutes basically, right? But I'm gonna go with Matthew Knies, even though I think it's gonna be a much tighter race than many people would expect, basically, right?
Yeah.
What about you?
That's fair. I'm leaning Knies for those same reasons, right? Where it's like he's just going to get the benefit of the doubt playing on a first line. Hopefully we see reunited, like more just Knies, Matthews, Marner more often down the stretch here. And yeah, I think he actually plays 3 minutes more a night than Bobby McMahon. So just by way of that, there's a lot more to work with for Knies. But like I said, coming into yesterday, Bobby was ahead here. That was with 6 games less played. Like, I think the point of this question is the fact that it's a conversation bodes well for the Leafs, that we've now had Bobby and Knies emerge as kind of the de facto secondary scoring guys. That bodes really well for the team, hopefully for the second half of the year.
Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the Second Look Sports channel. For producer Mando behind the screen and Cristian Chiniti, I'm your host, David Leo. We'll see you back here next week.